I know you're a Stern Show fan.
Yes.
JD right now is on vacation with his girlfriend. Do you have a mental image of this girlfriend? Do you think about that a lot? What she must be like, what that relationship must be like, the vacation, etc.?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think of her as like a female JD, like both of them kind of quietly, you know what I mean? Like saying a little, I mean, that's my image of her.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a female version of JD where they're both kind of stoic and quiet and, you know, just like communicating without saying much. And going places kind of like, you know.
Mumbling at each other?
Yeah, a little irritated by everything, but they'll talk about it back in their room, you know. I see it like a very intimate relationship, but in a JD intimacy way.
Like based sort of on silence.
Yes, based on silence and just slight irritation.
The crazy drinking phase,
right.
Which was, those stories are fascinating to me. What is it about, I think people, it's the stories almost are as addicted to as the drinking itself, that lifestyle, that's
well,
tough
like
to
I was
give
saying
up,
about
right?
Doug Stanhope, how he told me no more stories, you know, I put him in there, in there, even though I don't even know him that well. And but he said that to me once. I go, it's true. For some reason, people drinking have these long adventures because they're not thinking about the next day. They're not thinking about where they're going. They just kind of end up places. Then they go somewhere else. They end up at somebody's house.
Right.
Or they end up on like a long road trip somewhere. And it's always like those stories, you know, like where people just kind of, they're going in and out of consciousness in some way. Like those stories are great. Like, what a night, you know, and somebody else act crazy and then he started doing this.
Right.
It's just,
I mean, how long did it take for you to finally get over that? Because I heard you on Howard, you saying, now I go to bed at 10:30, I don't go out at night, I don't want to do any of this late night party stuff. But like, what was the transition like out of that? Like, do you not feel the pull of that anymore? I'm assuming it's been so long.
It's been so long. But I mean, when I quit drinking 30-something years ago. So for me, comedy saved my life. Because going out and being late night comedy, I smoked for about 10 years after, and just smoking and being up late was fun. It was exciting in a different way.
Right.
Like I was awake and I was actually remembering everything that happened the night before instead of being out at the bar. And not that many comedians, as I say in the book, were drinking in the New York culture. It was more diners and there were drinkers and there were people doing coke, but it wasn't like other places. It wasn't like the music.
LA was a darker,
the music
weird
scene.
Right? Yeah.
If I had been in the music scene, now they're mostly clean, but in those days, you know, you would have died. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, if you're around everybody drinking, doing blow, and you're sober, you're not going to last. You know?
Yeah, right. The Sam Kinison story in the book is incredible.
Right,
too,
right. I had to leave.
Right.
I had to leave all those situations. Every time one of those situations came up, I ran because I knew I would do it and die.
You clearly are just trolling the world with your tweets, which I love.
Yes.
And you know, you like to provoke and retweet the people who are offended, that sort of thing. When you are firing off a tweet, what's the character you see in your mind? Because I have a specific image of who I think you are playing on Twitter.
I'd like to hear it because I don't know how it all began. It began when I was trying to be sarcastic and everybody took me seriously.
Yeah.
So then I just was like laughing so hard that people were like, you know, like, and then I started being, you know, I mean, it's so ironic that we live in a world, probably means something big, that we live in a world where if you say something positive, people get furious.
Right.
And they're like, you're a sellout. And I'm like, you know, say I'm not a sellout. I'm just trying to, you know, keep it positive. You know, I have a brand to control. Right. And like, you're a corporate sellout. I go, I am not. I just happen to love Bank of New York. Chemical Bank is a fine.
The sponsored tweets.
Right, sponsored tweets. And they're like, you just sponsored that tweet. I go, now wait a minute. I just happen to enjoy going to Dwayne Reed promoted, whatever.
Right.
And then it became a thing, but now everybody's in on it, so it's kind of...
Right, no, totally. It is hysterical. Like, the voice I picture you sort of emulating, to me it seems like it's coming from a know-nothing 1980s upbeat news anchor, the sort of, hey gang.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what I envision.
I kind of think of myself as kind of a, maybe late 80s soccer mom.
Okay. Yeah, right, that works too. Same type vibe.
Yes.
You know.
Just trying to be just saying things that like, why are you wasting more air?
The reaction to Caitlyn Jenner being so universally positive,
right.
I was wondering do you think people are as accepting of her as they pretend to be, or is this sort of symptomatic of the thing too that you're talking about like, you know, thinking in a certain way that, you know.
It's a whole different issue, but
yeah.
I think I know what you're saying, which is that there's no room for any jokes about Caitlyn Jenner. Right. Except all the jokes you saw on Late Night or whatever were always about the reaction to her.
Making fun of the media suddenly.
Or the other Kardashians.
Right, sure.
Nobody would make a joke about Caitlyn Jenner.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
Bruce Jenner. And I think Artie Lang put it best. He had one, and a couple of people. We go on stage and he goes, look, I'm not saying. He goes, maybe I'm from a different generation. He goes, but I'm not saying something terrible or hateful about her. But guess what? When you take a guy that I grew up with as an Olympic gold medal,
the picture of masculinity,
and now you're telling me he's a girl, I need a minute. I'm sorry, maybe that makes you close-minded. I just need a minute.
Yeah.
And that's kind of fun, a funny way of saying, hey, look, I can't just immediately go, okay, I'm totally in. Give me a minute.
Right, and that's a fair take that only a comedian could get away with saying.
That only a comedian can get away with saying.
Absolutely.
And a guy like him who's like charming, and then a former athlete, and a guy that loves sports, jock guy,
Yeah.
But the way he says it is so funny. I need a minute. Perfect.
It's so true.